Thank you for joining. Uh, let's start with your introduction. You can introduce yourself, your professions, and then you can talk about what was the idea behind Climate for Pakistan, why it was important to make Climate for Pakistan. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Didar. I think I'm to first introduce myself. So, my name is Durlabh Ashok. I'm one of the co-founders of Climate for Pakistan. My background is in IT. I don't think many people know I have a software engineering background. But during like roughly around 2018, I came to know about SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and back then they were a relatively new concept that not many people knew what the SDGs and Sustainable Development Goals are. That led me to climate action. That's one goal that I fell in love with. Again, I did work on other few goals as well, but that was something that was quite close to my heart and I was quite passionate about. And that led me to work in the environmental slash climate sector in Pakistan as well as internationally. Apart from this, I work in IT, as some of you might have guessed. Also, I work in the impact entrepreneurship sector. So, sustainability, technology, and entrepreneurship are like the three verticals that I've been working in over these last many years. As far as why we created or founded or co-founded Clamps for Pakistan, I think the reason was quite simple. So the three individuals that co-founded Clamps for Pakistan, me, Zainab, as well as Jawad, we were quite fortunate enough that we kept running into each other at international as well as national forums, be it government consultation sessions, be it conferences like UNFCCC COP, right? So that was one of the motivation because we saw a lack of structured participation and structured networks, a lack thereof existing in Pakistan because we met with a lot of people that were coming to these special international forums, coming to these forums with networks, and they had a very strong grassroots level networks back home at their own countries, right? And when we looked around for our fellow Pakistanis, again, there was some, not to completely say that there weren't any young people, especially in those early days. That led us to creation of Plan for Pakistan because we saw that there was a need to mobilize more young people, especially in the international spaces, but as well as national spaces. Because what we found out internationally, yes, a lot needs to happen, but when you also look at nationally, all the concentration. Let me just use this word. The government was concentrated in just few key cities, right? So there was Lamba, there was Lahore, and to a certain extent even Karachi as well, my hometown. But all the rest of Pakistan was neglected, and it seemed like that they are not considered quote unquote mainstream Pakistan. So that is what led us to creation of Pakistan, that we can create this national wide youth-led advocacy organization that works, of course, on capacity building, mobilization, advocacy, but also on hardcore climate-related subjects like policy and research. So that is why we founded Climate for Pakistan. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Ashok. It's very, mentioned a very important point that if we are talking about the inclusion of youth, it should not be just specified to few cities, the capital or the central cities, especially if we see even the government organization who say that they are including the youth, it's only specific to some main cities, and we are neglecting the youth who are coming from the peripheries and the remote areas, and it's very important their inclusion. So my second question to you is, it has been like almost 2 years since the inception of Climate Forward Pakistan. As a co-founder, can you share what are your key achievements so far, and what the youth of Pakistan or the young people who are watching us through this Instagram live, what the things they can see in future from Climate Forward Pakistan? What are some of the opportunities you can bring?
Yeah, sure thing. I think let me start by this that like we are quite thankful and excited and thrilled about the support that we have so far gotten, right? We have been operating almost for 2 years now, and the support everyone has shown, especially the young people across Pakistan, it has been phenomenal, right? We were quite surprised and taken aback positively during the first year, and again, we are again very thankful that support has continued, be it young people, be it different organizations, both publicly and private organizations, including some support from the government. Like again, not that much, but they at least they are engaging, right? And I think that's really really good, and that must be credited to the past two governments at least. So we are quite thankful for that. And when it comes to us, right, we can talk about the numbers of sessions, events, programs that we have done over these last roughly 2 years, right? But I will not talk about those numbers. What I will really focus on is the team that we have right now, right? I think we have a phenomenal team. I would call myself and CFP lucky that we were able to find people like yourself, for example, Didar, that have been again doing this live session, many things behind the scenes that not many people might be aware of. But also our Children and Youth Advisory Board, right? These are like 25 young people from all over Pakistan that have been working in an advisory capacity on various initiatives, both behind the scenes and at times in front of again in front of the audiences as well. And again, that is something that I'm quite thankful for, and that has been one of the biggest achievements. Yes, programs, events, session, all that comes and goes. We were, for example, one of the co-organizers of Arkhoi APAC this year. Again, the conference didn't go that well. We are again not going to hide that, but even though we had that pleasure, we tried our best. But again, let's not talk about numbers. I want to focus on that team, and that has been one of the biggest, I would say, achievements when it comes to CFP, and especially looking at the vision forward, right? Because these three young people, these three youth, if you would like to call them, came together to co-found Plan for Pakistan. Now we have a group of 30, 40 people, and we're quite excited of what we can do collectively as a network, as this close-knit community for 2025. So we are quite excited about that. And that has been kind of our biggest achievement, if I were to just say it, for 2024.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So I will speak a bit about the Children and Youth Advisory Board to the people who don't know CYAB. So it's Children and Youth Advisory Board. It functions under Climate for Pakistan. So it's a platform where we have young people from all across Pakistan. So we have people from Azad Kashmir, Gilgit Baltistan, Chitral, KP, Islamabad, Quetta, every part of Pakistan. So where we work on the capacity building of the young people, and we empower them that they can take initiatives in their own localities. For example, one of the project which CYAB did was during the elections of Feb 22, 2024, they were writing letters to the people who were contesting in the election to include climate action and policies related to climate change in their manifestos, and it was a successful. Then we also did a fundraising for the Balochistan flood relief, where we almost like 2 lakh rupees we collected in just 10 days. So these are the things that we Climate for Pakistan is facilitating the young peoples to go and work in climate action. And I will share a news also that we will be opening the applications for Children and Youth Advisory Board in some upcoming weeks. So stay tuned with Climate for Pakistan and do apply. So it's a very great opportunity that you got a chance to interact and meet young people across the Pakistan who are working with the same passion for climate action. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Durlabh. So let's move to COP, today's main topic. So it was called the the finance COP. So how was finance COP?
Right, I think by now, pretty much everyone, if you're not like living under the rock, sorry for using that analogy, but everyone is aware of what kind of a disaster this COP was, right? And let me start off by this actually, that when we talk about COPs, right, pretty much every COP has been finance COP for countries like Pakistan, which on almost like on a schedule get hit by climate disasters, right? Again, we are not new when it comes to climate migration. We are not new when it comes to climate-induced disasters. We are not new, for example, with floods. We are not new to flash floods. Again, all of this we have experienced pretty much in the last 10 years, more or less, right? And then it has intensified because of our changing climate. So for us as a country, money or finance is the number one thing that the entire country look forward to, not only just government, even the young people look forward to. And actually, we took part in a couple of actions at COP, again, demanding pay up, right, and pay now, because according to some reports and the number that was being suggested this year was in trillion, right? 1.2 trillion, 1.3 trillion, 1.4 trillion, but it was in trillions, right? And the amount that was secured by, again, different, you can say it like a consensus that was agreed upon was around meager billions, right? Again, the gap is huge, not going to underestimate that. But at the same time, I think let's not blame COP for that, right? COP is the process. That's what it's there for. Let's blame the people that led to that number, right? And again, these are all the parties. Again, especially some countries over other countries, that because how this process works is that if let's say I, as some country, let's call it Durlabh, right? For example, if I disagree with something, I can say, oh, red flag, we cannot proceed with this, and nothing can happen. This can be seen as a big hindrance, but I see that as an advantage because, again, when we talk about international relations, if anyone has studied IR or if we talk about multilateral processes, right, many of these processes work like that. And again, the criticism is justified. And again, we are furious as well as an organization. We, in fact, released a statement after coming from a COP summarizing the outcome of the COP itself, right? That it was kind of a missed opportunity and something that, again, we as the world, even after coming together at these conferences for the 29th time, no major win for climate was achieved. But nonetheless, I think when we talk about some of the country or I would say organizational participation, I think we were pretty much one of the only, I think I can safely argue that we were the pretty much the biggest youth-led organization from Pakistan that had supported like 8, 9 people at COPs in various forms. Of course, we were not able to support with all these wonderful people everything, but we did provide support wherever we can. And again, that's quite a big of achievement when it comes to what we did in Baku this year. And we do hope that we are able to replicate something similar in Belém in Brazil at COP30 as well, including making sure that we bring a delegation or we support a delegation where, again, all the provinces are represented. So this year we had representation in a COP delegation from all provinces except Balochistan, right? And I think I'm a bit sad about that, that we could have looked around and supported someone, even someone who's not member of CFP, right? Because we did that this year and we could have expanded a bit further, but maybe that's some of our key learnings for COP30 as well. But I think on an organizational level, we did phenomenal. We had a lot of side events, we had a lot of bilaterals and engagements throughout COP29 in Baku. We also recorded a wonderful episodes, few episodes of our Planet Pulse podcast, right? So whoever is here or listening to us live or watching this afterwards, please do be on lookout for these episodes, and we do hope to continue this formats in the future as well. So I think in terms of organizational work that we did, advocacy that we did, I think the word is only phenomenal and amazing. But when it comes to the overall outcome of COP as a conference, COP as this driving force, where we talk about driving ambitions, that was disappointing. And I would say a lot of, especially when it comes to Annex 2 countries, or let's just call them Global South, felt that they were left behind when it comes to the counterpart of developed countries. And that was disastrous, especially for small island nations, because their homes are being wiped out as we speak. Even though Pakistan pretty much ranks in some high position when it comes to the environmental German index, actually, the vulnerability index by a German entity, and we are like fourth, sometime at fifth, sixth, or seventh. We do create some position, but we are pretty much on the top 10 vulnerable country. But there are small island nations that the entire population is in threat of rising seawater. So that is something that we saw firsthand, their devastation, and a lot of countries did pull out their delegation at COP towards the end as well. But overall, as I said, not a very good year for climate advocacy, global climate advocacy, and raising ambition when it comes to that. But yeah, again, a bit gloomy. But at the same time, I feel the hope remains. I think that even the gap from billion, like 300 billion to 1.3 trillion or 1.2 trillion is huge. But some progress has been made, right? Especially when it comes to just doing the bare minimum. The countries have come together to do that, but not enough, obviously. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Ashok. We'll come to the COP structure by the end of this session. As we mentioned, Climate for Pakistan is the biggest youth delegation from Pakistan. We were 8, 9 people who were supported by Climate for Pakistan, and we were the only organization who had this large number of delegation. So you also spoke about some of the engagements of Climate for Pakistan. Like we had 8 to 9 side events in various pavilions, and we also recorded the Climate Pulse podcast. So can you share which of the side events was most interesting for you? And we also had a lot of the side events which Climate for Pakistan organized, but they were very unique in their aspect. So can you share them? And also, my second part of the question is, as we mentioned, we had the biggest youth delegation. So there's also a lot of challenges as a young organization, which is just almost 2 years old. Can you also share the challenges you faced as the organization?
Yes, sure thing. I think that's a very excellent question, Didar. So one, like again, because we closely worked when we were pitching these sessions, right? So pretty much all of them were very close to my heart, and very pertinent when it comes to highlighting the diverse challenges we face as a country, right? Because we have a very biodiverse southern region, including a very biodiverse northern region, right? So some of the sessions that I personally felt was quite interesting, and I don't think I have seen something similar, at least in the last few COPs, when it comes to participation and inclusion of young Pakistani people were around Arctic and Third Pole, right? So Third Pole is this region in a northern areas, HKH region, where we have this again coming together of these three great mountain ranges, right? And these are again from that region. You can expand on that a bit more if you want to after I'm done. So for me, what we did was we bring and again provided a platform for young people from South Asia that again have access to this region called Third Pole or being affected by this region. And we also brought like these young people from Arctic region countries, right? Nordic countries, other Arctic region countries, and we bring them together and sort of say, okay, you guys face challenges when it comes to the Arctic region. We face challenges when it comes to South Asia and these mountainous region and this glacier-rich region that essentially feeds the entire country of Pakistan, for example, and other countries in the region. So how can we, the young people, can come together and facilitate this cross pollination of ideas from those two regions? Again, these regions cannot be different, right? Again, this is understated. We are completely different region, but we face similar challenges, right? And again, that panel that we had was one of the most fruitful panel, especially when I look at all the other panels that we create. Again, all had their own charm and own reason why we wanted to organize that. Not going to underestimate and again, just because I love those Arctic Pavilion panels again, but that was one of the biggest, I would say, surprise for me because there was something that, again, collectively, all the panelists, and this is something that we were pushing, but again, we had not communicated this to them. Then that they were like, oh, we should come together after COP and see what kind of platforms that we can create that can facilitate that cross pollination, right? And apart from this session, the other session that I really liked was the one that was moderated by Fiza in Green Zone, actually in Extreme Hangouts called. Again, I don't remember the exact name of the session, but it was the session where we had people sharing their climate change stories and how climate change impacted them, right? Again, it's been some week now, and I don't remember the exact name of the session at the top of my head. But that was another session because we had it organized in a fishbowl manner, which meant that people, also the audience, contributed towards the entire session towards the end. And we had amazing panel aligned at that session as well. And again, that turned out to be really well, I think, because we all spoke from our hearts. And one thing easily connected with all of the human suffering, the vulnerability that we all experience when climate change comes knocking on our doorsteps, right? Because then it really does not matter if you have, again, 100,000 rupees in your bank account or 10 million account. It's going to affect you, and it's going to be that similar suffering that you will experience, even though that affects you, that if you have that finance available to you, you can better prepare. Not going to say that it does not affect you, but it affects the climate change affect us regardless when it comes knocking to our door, because we had people from diverse countries, right? We had people from Asian context, we had people from European context, as well as from the North American context as well. And that was pretty much similar. And that was one thing that again, I think two of the panel that we organized were quite, I think, in terms of what was discussed, was quite close to my heart. And these are why I completely forgot the other part of the question that you asked. If you could just quickly remind me again.
Yeah, yeah. So the second part of question was what were the some of the challenges you faced the Climate for Pakistan delegation? There were quite a some.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, so again, as expanded that we supported roughly 9 people. Eight were directly in our delegation. Then we had another young person from Pakistan that we supported them with accommodation, for example. So one of the first thing out of the bed, I think this is something that we have discussed in these live sessions, I believe, earlier as well. Again, it usually happens at COP, but we did not expect the intensity of it, that we had our accommodation canceled, for example, not once, not twice, but thrice, right? But in the end, like finally, when we were on ground, we were able to finally secure one, be it at very high prices. I can say roughly it costed us like 3x, 4x more than we had our booking for initially when we were flying out of Pakistan, for example. But we made it work. And I think I just want to give some credit, or I would say shout out to two organizations that supported our delegation as well, right? One of them is Islamic Relief Pakistan. They were quite instrumental. They came in very last minute, but they did support these efforts. And the other one is We Are Global Tomorrow Partnership. That is like this huge network of international NGOs and networks and organizations that we are part of from Pakistan that supported us, making sure that all these wonderful people that we brought to Baku in whatever capacity we can, limited capacity, was possible. So I just want to give that quick shout out. But apart from this, I think all of us enjoyed Baku to its fullest. All of us explored, even though a lot of people, our own delegation, even you, Dida, were attending COP for the first time. And first few days, I can imagine would have been hectic. And again, it's very hard to make sense of such a big space. But when it comes to the challenges, I think the challenges stopped when we were able to secure the competition, and then the work started. But at the same time, I think some of us were sick as well. So that was something on top of it. But I think overall, we really again immersed ourselves in Baku, and Baku treated us well, I think, ultimately when it comes to it. We like the city as well, I think, and there are some informal plans that we discussed around the city as well. But overall, I think it was challenging, especially when we were flying out of Pakistan. And I want to really emphasize this point that we did not know that where we will be sleeping that day, like at night. But things turned out well. At the end, I think that's the only thing that we were counting on, and did turn out well. So we are good. We are good on that front. But yeah, when it comes to challenges, that's what as an organization really struck us. But again, not too extreme challenges, but of course these things come and go, and we made the most of it.
Yeah. Um, Thank you for sharing those. So I was with you, and we were navigating all these challenges, and it was also a very good learning experience that we got to know that we learned from our the challenges, and especially the late night talks we were having in the apartment. Also the Insta cafe, if you remember, the best part of Baku, and the gup shops, exploring the city. We visited a lot of places in Baku, and it was a very amazing experience. Apart from COP, so yeah, as we were discussing, so there is a lot of criticism going on COP, like they are becoming greenwashing platforms. What is a youth who have been to COPs like 6 times, if I'm not wrong? What do you think that COPs need to restructure?
No, I think definitely as a process, COP definitely has places that it can improve upon, places where we think that, again, the thrust of climate action or the crisis that we face is dependent on one and only party, right? The historical polluters. And again, that has been, I would say, foundational when it comes to climate justice, right? And I think right now in 2024 and entering into 2025, those parties also have this consensus to a very large degree. I think as a process, what we are lacking is the willingness to have, I would say, a better understanding or a better empathy towards the parties that their actions has affected, right? I think empathy is missing in these processes because these processes can be very cutthroat, right? Because it's about, okay, as a country, do we take historical responsibility? Do we apologize? Do we provide, for example, reputation for our actions in the past, right? So that when we look at it from a government lens and country-wide lens, a lot of countries and negotiators on behalf of their countries can get defensive, right? But if we inject a little bit more empathy into this conversation, it can get out of, okay, who's to blame? Again, it's happening, and maybe those kind of identification is important for some people, right? But I think at the bottom, why we are there is not to again say, oh, because you did it, you have to say sorry or the blame's on you. Um, the progress that we're trying to make at these conferences and these processes is how can we move the needle forward and how much, right? And when it comes to that, I think there's, of course, there's so much criticism, and I would say rightly so that this process, again, people joke, and I also crack this joke that COP does not stand for Conference of Parties, it stands for Conference of Polluters, right? So again, the criticism is justified. Even I think we put up a story around this live session when we asked people to ask this question. And one of that question that I remember, again, Rida Ashok, again, one of our earlier member at CFP, she's not with us anymore. But she put down that, do you have any hope for processes like COPs, right? And I think uh, I only have hope for COPs, right? Because my reasoning is this, right? Even though it's a very inefficient process, it does not work well. That's the only process that we have that works to a certain extent, right? It has delivered in past. Maybe it's not working now, and maybe there are structural challenges, but there isn't any suggestion or any process on the table that works better than this process when it comes to it, the consensus-led process, right? And let me just reiterate very, very quickly why this process does not work or has this inefficiency. It's because if any parties, any countries, any negotiator stands up and say, we will not discuss this now. We will discuss it maybe at Bonn or next year at COP again. No one can do anything, right? Because that's how the consensus and the international relation work, this international multilateral processes work. And some say, oh, it should not be that wussy, or it should not, like one small country or one big country cannot affect what 99 other countries are saying. Maybe so, but that's again how the nature of these multilateral processes are. No one or nor the UN has that stick that it can use to align everyone up, right? We have to also identify that's also true, right? Maybe some people might say, oh, it should have a stick that it can use, but again, that's a very different and I would say to an extent very dangerous discussion at that as well, right? The world has to come together. And as a young person who have attended multiple COPs in the past, I think I always meet amazing young people at these conferences. Some of them are in conference, and even though in the last few conferences we have not really seen young people outside the conference as well that are pressurizing these parties, these governments to an extent. But there are always two groups of young people, right? One who's demanding from outside and one who are working with these
Yeah.
parties from the inside at the COP, right? And both are, to my understanding, again, have a function to perform, right? That's how democracies work. Some of young people disagree with what's happening, so they don't take part in the process, but they protest outside, and then there are people that are pushing the needle by working inside this conference, and both play a very important role. And again, that's completely their right. So for me, I see this spectrum of these young people and find hope, especially when talking to these young people and having those in-depth conversation of what made them come to COP and what they are doing at their own communities. Again, at times, striking conversation with people coming from countries that I had no idea even existed, right? And again, had very in-depth knowledge of the challenges that were being faced by these countries and the innovative and at times quite brilliant solutions are implemented by these countries. So I think for me, as a young people from Pakistan, one of the key takeaways has been this knowledge and have been this exchange. But of course, as the outcome of this conference is not very encouraging, as we have discussed over and over again. But I think it still serve a very important purpose. We don't have a substitute to a process that works better than COP. And maybe that's something that we need to work toward. Who knows? But this process works at a snail's pace, and maybe it can be argued at not a good pace or the pace is not enough. We need more faster, more ambitious action. Completely agree with that perspective as well. But yeah, that is couple of again. I don't have a very clear answer, unfortunately, to this question. It has become just like a muddied water that does it function, maybe not well or it's sick. I'm using all these words. Maybe I should not be again saying on an Instagram live, but I think again that's how I see these conferences as a complex beings and complex processes. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that brief answer. It's right that the criticism on COPs is very, very well justified, but we don't have any alternate space. COP is the only platform where all the countries, all the young people who are working in the climate space, they gather. And also, the criticism is very well justified that the fossil fuel lobbies, they also outnumber the delegations from the most vulnerable countries. So as you also mentioned that the role of youth in the co-ops and also the people who are not in the co-op, they also play a very significant role. So my last question will be my last question that a lot of people think that if you're working in the climate space, it's compulsory that you should go to these conferences. It's agree if you got the opportunity that you should go. It's very good networking and also learning opportunity. But the thing is, if you don't have the opportunity, the thing is, what is the practical work you are doing in your localities? That's matter. And my question to you is, what do you say to the youth that how important is that we don't have to wait for these international conferences, but the work which we are doing in our localities.
No, I think that's completely important. Unfortunately, again, there is a lot of FOMO, like fear of missing out, that has been created recently in Pakistan around these conferences, right? And I think when someone visits these conferences, like these processes, like COP or other COPs around, for example, desertification or CBD or other stuff, I think the realization sets in really, really quickly that, again, as young people, there's only so much that we can do. And because how these processes are also structured, right, that there is the distinction between, for example, observer and party delegates, right? And I think we, again, a lot of, again, not to blame the young people, but again, I think we are also involved in this. I would say almost like a fantasy around these conferences that you should attend these conferences. Yes, they do serve a purpose. I will not stop anyone from visiting these conferences and attending these conferences. Definitely not. But let's not hype it to a level that people feel that if they attend this conference, they might change the outcome of the conference, because that will never happen, right? I think that is something that we absolutely need to make sure that anyone who's attending understand this, right? Because if you're an observer badge and you rarely attend on a party badge, right? Unless again you don't have any connections with the government, and even then you will not be involved directly in the negotiations that happens around COP. Of course, you can observe on many of these processes. You can learn from that. Definitely, there's learning to be had. Definitely, there's a lot of things that you can experience, and again, it can be very beneficial when it comes to your own career growth. But don't present these conferences as Hail Mary efforts where if I attend or you should attend, for example, where you will change the entire outcome. That's rubbish in my opinion, right? And of course, again, I will not underemphasize that these conferences don't serve any purpose. Of course, they serve purpose. Many of the young climate action and advocacies and the campaigns that we work on over this almost like an entire year, we come together at these places to reconnect with our colleagues, especially the international colleagues, right? So that is, of course, a benefit of attending this COP, that you get to meet them one on one, face to face, in person, that many of us don't aren't able to again when we work virtually, because a lot of work to surprise of many happen virtually, right? Especially in an international context. So that's definitely something that if you again want to gain out of this conference, you should attend. But at the same time, when it comes to making this bold claims that oh you will go you are there and you are doing this and that, again don't hyperinflate what you are doing. Be realistic about this, because it creates this cycle. And again, I've seen this over for last roughly 2 years, that many people feel this, for the lack of better word, desperation of attending these conferences. And I have met people that were confused. Again, I will not name them, obviously, and I will not tell them which background they belong to, or even if they were from Pakistan, for example. But I met people actually this year that they had no clue of how COP worked, but they were there because to them it seemed like that again they had to attend. There's no other way out, but that's not true. Let's not pressure our young people, especially let's not pressure young people from Pakistan, that they have to attend no matter what. Again, that's something that we should avoid. And of course, when we say we had the biggest delegation and we celebrate that, but we also need to be careful as an organization that we're not contributing to that notion that it's a do or die situation. Again, there's many COPs that are going to happen now. After, for example, COP26, you are able to attend COP virtually as well. So if we are looking forward to this learning of what's happening and what's are the outcomes, you can attend that. And of course, COP presidencies, whoever is current presidency of that particular COP, do update everything on their website, FFCC.int, almost on a real-time basis, right? So again, have your priorities again set. Don't feel FOMO, fear of missing out, because I personally feel that's not the right way to go. So,
Yeah, thank you for that brief answer again. So yeah, I guess we are almost at the end of our session. Thank you so much, Durlabh. And to the audience, if you have any questions related to climate for Pakistan, if you want to ask or related to COP processes, you can type your questions in the comment and we'll have. Durlabh, there was a comment on the question you posted on the story. Can you briefly just shortly share what are the criteria for COP? The people want to ask. There was a question.
yeah, so again, that's also, I would say, misunderstanding that you apply to attend COP, right? Or there's some kind of application process for COP. Maybe in the last 2 years, from COP 28 and now 29, and maybe in COP 30 as well, there's a presidency-led process when young people are encouraged to apply, and they will be probably be fully funded, and there will be entire program around it. But apart from that, maybe around 20, 30, 50 young people, all the other, they don't apply to attend, right? So how these conferences work is that, again, COP stands for Conference of Parties. So the parties, essentially the countries that have ratified the UNFCCC in their home countries, are parties to that. So they can take you on their delegation officially and unofficially. So what that means is they assign you a badge, right? So it could be a party badge, it could be a party overflow badge, and there are other badge accreditation criteria and accreditation categories. Then again, the most, I would say, young people that visits these conferences are on the observer badge. So that is one badge that allows us to only observe, and that the vast majority of these young people, especially us, coming to these conferences, like again attend these conferences and tap into these conferences through that badges. And for example, if I were to attend my first COP, what should I do? I should reach out to organizations, especially these NGOs that are accredited through this UNFCCC process, right? There's an entire 2 year process for that. And there are some that are already existing in Pakistan. And then there are some that are, again, international NGOs that take young people in with their delegation. So what your role should be that you look at UNFCCC website and see what kind of organization Pakistani organization supporting. If you want to reach out to them and start early, right? Start maybe in January or February. Start to reach out to them and see if they would be interested to take you on. Don't reach out to them in September and October that, hey, I'm this, and should you do you have any badge available, or should space be open on their own delegation? Because by then most of the badges and accreditation has already been assigned. So reach out to them early. Maybe try the government route if you have connections or if you know people. Again, that's how unfortunately government processes work. But apart from that, there are some wonderful NGOs that take young people in their delegations. International, some of those international organizations exist, and also nationally you can try as well. But I found that that does not work out well. But international might be your best bet, but you definitely should reach out to some of those national organizations first as well.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, this the simple thing that you have to reach out to organization and get involved with the organization that are working in your country. And if you want to try, go for the international organization, get involved, and you can try your luck. Yeah, thank you so much, Ashok, for the amazing session, for the very insightful discussion. So I guess yeah, we'll we are at the end of our time. So again, thank you so much for the lovely discussions. And to the audience, we are having these live Instagram lives on weekly basis. So stay tuned. Yeah, thank you.